Now, WJZ's Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health.
This is Purple Connection. I'm Alex Glaze, coming to you on a victory Monday in Baltimore. The Ravens dominant in a 41-17 win over the Cleveland Browns. This was a total team effort. Tylan Wallace scored the game's first touchdown following a blocked punt. So really, every phase of this Ravens offense, or Ravens team, I should say, coming and contributing in a big way. Tez Walker made 2 catches, his first catches of the 2025 season, both of them touchdowns, and then the defense put the finishing touches on this game. Tavius Robinson sacked Joe Flacco, forced a fumble, and linebacker Roquan Smith took it back to his Macon County High School days where he was a running back, a scoop and score for Rowe, and an exclamation point for a dominant team win.
Everybody's on the team for a reason because you need them. You know, you want guys on your team to contribute, you know, and when guys, man, everybody wants to contribute. Everybody wants their opportunity. They want their shot. Guys want to win first and foremost, but they also want to contribute just as much, you know, and because that's what they work hard for.
And to talk more about that, of course, I want to bring in everybody for the show. We have Grace Grill joining us. We have Giana Han of the Baltimore Banner, and we have Tim Barbalace of 105.7 The Fan.
Maybe we'll see our faces
we're
at
gonna
some
pop
point
up.
tonight.
There we go. We're all here. Grace, I want to start with you. Just your big takeaways from that big win yesterday.
Okay, look, defense. You got to start with defense. They were the talking point all week long after the complete meltdown that they had last week. So that was my biggest takeaway, not just for the total effort, but in the way that they came up with the turnovers and everything. And then my other one was them still being able to put up 40 points when essentially your run game was eliminated. So I thought those are my 2 main takeaways.
Yeah, Tim, I think Grace kind of touched on it, the running game being taken away. I don't think we've ever seen Derrick Henry get bottled up like that. And it's just, it wasn't so much bad offense as much as it's this Browns defense they're legit.
Yeah.
Well, you saw how talented that Browns defensive front is, and that was a group that held the Bengals to just 7 yards in the entire second half the prior week. But the 45 yards rushing, that was the lowest rushing output in the Lamar Jackson era. Derrick Henry was a non-factor. Lamar Jackson wasn't activating his legs at all, just 2 carries. And then you think about the rest of the offense. Nothing from Derrick Henry, nothing from Bateman, nothing from Mark Andrews, but it was other guys doing it. Devontae Walker had 2 touchdowns. Tylan Wallace had a touchdown. D-Hop showing that he isn't washed, and he was saying as much, making plays as well. It wasn't like the main cast, but it kind of gets back to what a lot of the team and the coaches were saying last year. It's a pick your poison offense.
I love that you used his full name, Devontae Walker. I feel like with the performance he had, it is Tez Walker.
Well,
he's got the nickname now.
That's Tez, especially to me and Giana, because we go way back. So Giana, you actually wrote about Tez a little bit and his relationship with D-Hop in the Baltimore Banner, a really cool relationship that they had that we've seen blossom throughout this offseason and now coming to light, especially with yesterday's performance.
Yeah, I do remember when he got here, by the way. So everyone was calling him Tez, and he said he wouldn't go by Devontae. So that's why we've been calling him that in writing. But, you know, everyone else refers to him as Tez. So I think eventually it's going to turn into just Tez Walker. It's a little bit, you know, snappier anyway. But yeah, he was talking about after the game, you know, we talked to D-Hop first, and he immediately, as soon as I asked about Devontae Walker, he said, I'm his #1 fan. Now, I do think he has competition there because Rashad Bateman also claims that he's Devontae Walker's #1 fan. But he was saying he was overjoyed to see the 2 touchdown catches that Devontae was able to have, which were his first stats of this entire season, which is pretty impressive. And then we move on over to Tez's Walker. Oh, Tez's Locker. That's confusing. And we asked him about DeAndre, saying that he was his biggest fan. And he was like, that's crazy because this is a guy that he grew up watching. And I was looking at some of Lamar's comments as well, which is funny because I think, you know, Tez's like 2nd year, he looks up to Lamar as a veteran too. But Lamar himself also said that DeAndre is someone he grew up watching. So that kind of gives you a little bit of idea between the generation gap. But he said that every single day since D-Hop got here, he has taken the time to talk to him one-on-one. And he said he doesn't know if D-Hop knows how much that means to him, but he has been absorbing everything. And that's what you want to hear from a young guy. Asked what the biggest thing that has had an impact on him is that D-Hop and Lamar have both told him he's clearly just thinking too much when he's out there. and not just playing, and he needs to just trust himself and just play. So we saw that all kind of play out through the training camp, and it resulted in 2 touchdowns this last game.
2 touchdowns, and then the D-Hop touchdown. I mean, I know he only got 1 on the books. He should have had 2, right, guys? I mean, that first one, yeah, he was down at the half-yard line, but I don't know if he had that full possession at the time until he got in the end zone. I think that might have been New York. I mean, D-Hop again was like, I don't know what I did to the guys in New York, but, listen, but still, a great performance from him again, finding the end zone.
What's been so great about DeAndre Hopkins is the fact that the Ravens, they always love having these older wide receivers, these veteran-type guys. But in years past, they wouldn't have a Zay Flowers, they wouldn't have a Rashad Bateman, where you bring in DeAndre Hopkins. He doesn't have to be the guy that he was 5 years ago. He just needs to fit this role, and that's making those contested catches, that's showing up big in the red zone. Look at his usage through the first 2 games. He played 10 snaps yesterday. He had 2 catches, including that touchdown. He played 18 snaps in the Bills' season opener, had 2 catches there, had a touchdown there. So he's not playing much, but in this situation, less is more with DeAndre Hopkins.
Right, I totally agree with that. And I also just think he brings so much swagger. I know this isn't like the football thing that you can put into stats and numbers, but especially when these guys start playing later in the season, like swagger counts, right? Because you kind of have to have a confidence when you go into those later games in the season. And it just shows how multiple they are. Like you said, in the first game, his touchdown was just like Sports Center top play, right? It wasn't just like any old other touchdown. It was just it alleviates the other players on that team that they know they have a guy that can come in pretty much cold and make those big plays. And then you got Tez making those big plays as well. And then you had the workhorse in Flowers all day long, and Bateman too making some pretty good catches. Like, it just shows how multiple they are, even without the run game.
Yeah, and we've talked all offseason just about how many weapons are on this offense. So after the game, of course, we had to hear from Tez about his performance, but then also just kind of just saying how, teams just don't know where this is going to come from any given week.
Lamar understands what we have in our room and throughout our offense. We have so many weapons everywhere, and he wants everybody around to have just as much success as he does. That's just the type of guy and quarterback he is. It makes you want to go out there and play for him, play hard for him.
And as we get ready to wrap this up, guys, I do want to just kind of ask, what do we think the ceiling is for this offense? I mean, another 40-point game. I know that they did it in a different way this week, but just kind of what does this tell you about where this offense can go if, we have the Tez Walker scoring 2 touchdowns, DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, literally, Tylan Wallace, anybody can score.
It's a dangerous offense, and they can beat you in a variety of ways. It can be a different guy any given week. And again, we still have yet to see Rashad Bateman or Mark Andrews do anything. We haven't seen Isaiah Likely play a snap yet. The offensive line didn't even have that great of a game yesterday against the Browns, and they still were able to put up over 40 points for a second consecutive game.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to play a little game. What's the word? And we are going to continue Purple Connection after this.
The Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. This is the Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health.
And welcome back to Purple Connection. It's time for What's the Word? You guys know how this works. I'm going to give you a phrase and you fill in the blank. Let's start here because there were so many great plays to choose from in yesterday's dominant 41-17 win over the Cleveland Browns. What was the most overlooked play? Grace, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, and I think the way that game ended with the fumble return, I think that kind of overshadowed everything. But the blocked punt, just that kind of change, that was a momentum changer, I feel like, for the rest of the way that game. Because that first half, guys, like that, I don't know about you guys, that was boring. That was a boring first half of football. So that kind of set the tone leading the rest of the way. So I think that was overlooked.
Yeah, Jake Hummel getting his hand in there. Big offseason acquisition. We're talking about a special teamer, guy just coming in to do his job. I agree with you, Grace. I think that was probably the play that got things started, changed the tide a little bit. Tim, what do you think? The most overlooked play?
I'm going to go with the very next play following the blocked punt, and that was Derrick Henry, 8-yard run. He ended up fumbling, but Tylan Wallace, he was right there in position, ended up falling on that football, where it was such a huge momentum change. Getting that block punt, you get the great field position. If Tylan Wallace wasn't there and the Browns ended up recovering that fumble, and then the momentum flips and it's such a gut punch because the very next play after the fumble, Tylan Wallace ended up scoring that touchdown, and that ended up being the only touchdown in the first half of either of the teams.
Absolutely. All right, let's stick with receivers, and I'm going to bring you in, Gianna. Zay Flowers has really been, I don't want to, well, hold on, I was about to give away my word before we start, but in 2 weeks, Zay Flowers has been what?
Consistent.
Consistent, okay. I mean, that's
He hasn't done anything flashy, but he has consistently gotten a lot of like chunk yardage plays, I feel like. So that's what comes to mind when I think of him.
I'm going to say Zay Flowers looks like wide receiver 1. For whatever reason, there's some debate whether or not Zay is a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, whatever. First of all, it doesn't matter. But I think when we're talking about 14 receptions, I think 20 targets through 2 weeks, top 5 in receiving yards. I mean, Zay has proven that he has earned Lamar's trust, and he can make the most of those opportunities. So I'm going to go with wide receiver 1. Tim.
You stole it. Number 1 wide receiver. If
go.
you want me to go in a different direction, even though it's the same thing. But no, you're seeing that type of consistency. And with Zay Flowers, the in-breaking routes just hit. You're getting him in so much pre-snap motion. Todd Monken is setting him up for success. But it's the yak with Zay Flowers as well. It's funny thinking back a couple years ago when the Ravens drafted him, that people were thinking, oh, geez, it's Hollywood 2.0. That couldn't be further than the truth. Hollywood would get tackled by the turf monster all the time, where Zay Flowers, he's always looking for the extra yardage.
It was funny, Alex. Alex called me earlier this morning and he asked me, he was like, hey, like what did you think of Zay's performance? And there was like a brief pause and I was like, dare I say seasoned, right? Because I mean, remember, this is a guy, and he came out even in that Bills loss, he missed the playoffs last year. So I just felt, and I agree with all of your words too, especially yours, Gianna, with consistent, like he just feels like he hasn't missed a beat, and he came out fully ready, and it was just, and he's just being the workhorse that they need him to be.
Yep, a seasoned vet. All right, Gianna, hold on. I'm gonna get you back.
I'll jump in that was actually the first thing that came to mind, Alex. But then I thought that's 3 words, so I went with a one.
All right, we're not getting technical here. All right, last one, guys. Jair Alexander, a healthy scratch yesterday. So Jair, being a healthy scratch is what? Gianna, I'll start with you.
Expected, because not expected maybe coming into the season, but just after the comments that we had heard in the locker room after the way he played, and honestly after the fact that he didn't practice, I didn't expect him to play last game. Chidobe has been playing so well in his absence, and for them to throw him in there with 3 days of practice after missing over 3 weeks of practice just didn't seem like the smartest move, especially because this defense is notoriously hard for defensive backs to grasp. It just always has been, dating back years. It's still super multiple, super versatile, very complex. So to throw a guy in there with barely any reps was so surprising to me. So then when Marlon started talking about it doesn't matter who you are, if you don't perform, you're going to be benched, and Harbaugh making some comments, kind of expected this one. So hopefully he'll be back soon. Harbaugh said today that we'll see him sooner rather than later, but that wasn't a shocker for me.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to say somewhat puzzling. Is that hyphenated? I think that's a hyphenated word, so somewhat puzzling.
Multiple words.
We're gonna have to rename the segment.
Maybe give me multiple blank spaces. But guys, listen, for everything we're talking about with his health, he played in week 1, right? And you can grade how he played because obviously he was out there, and that's all fair and good. But I think it's a little interesting that now John Harbaugh is kind of looking at his health and saying he's not ready to be out there. We're going to wait. He hadn't practiced for a month, and then they put him out there in the Bills game. So if he's not right now, was he right for the Bills game? Why'd you need to play him in week 1? So I think that they didn't do him any favors by throwing him out there week 1 if he wasn't at full health. I mean, hopefully, obviously he can recover and get right, but that's somewhat puzzling to me. Tim.
Well, I think you're both right. And I think the fact that if John Harbaugh had a redo, I don't think Jair Alexander would have played that first game against the Bills. And in that first half of that first game, he only played 5 snaps, and then he played 24 snaps in the second half, and that's when the Bills' offense got going. And after that 4th down pass interference where he tackled the receiver, I think you should have just kept him on the bench the rest of the way. But my word is concerning. And we know that injuries have plagued Jair Alexander over the past few years. 3 of the past 4 years, he's only played in 7 games. And for this to already be happening this early on in the season, it's concerning. He had his knee drained early on during training camp, ended up coming back to practice, then missed a ton of time. So you're trying to keep him as healthy as possible in order to play as many games as possible, but especially come January.
I think my word, I mean, concerning is a good one, but I'm going to say disappointing as well. And just like, and look, the Ravens are locked up on stuff like that when it comes to injuries, and you can read between the lines, but that's kind of your own perception of stuff. But I will just say, based on the comments that Gianna referenced with Marlon and everybody in there, it's just, you read in between the lines, and I would just say disappointing, and that's all I'll leave it at.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back, we're going to check up and take a look around the league. What happened? A lot happened yesterday, especially today. A lot of quarterback news. We're going to touch on some of the big stories when Purple Connection continues.
The Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. And now the League Checkup, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. Care bravely.
And welcome back to Purple Connection. A lot happened around the league yesterday. It's only week 2, but these quarterbacks, man, some of them are dropping like flies. Obviously, the big news yesterday, the Bengals, they get the win, but they might have lost their quarterback for a couple of months. Joe Burrow going to need surgery. Might be out 3 months, guys, minimum.
It's a gut punch for Cincinnati, and they had a crazy offseason to say the least. In the Trey Hendrickson situation, they ended up paying both their wide receivers, and now they don't have their franchise quarterback. And this is the first year under Zach Taylor with Joe Burrow that they didn't get off to a slow start. They're 2-0. Was it ugly? Yes, but they're going to take the wins. Joe Burrow, I feel terrible for him because right now, and a lot of people are pointing it out, this is trending in like an Andrew Luck type trajectory for him. And Joe Burrow, even a couple years ago, brought up his athletic mortality despite being as young as he is, 27, 28 years old. The injuries keep piling up for him.
Yeah, Gianna, I think we saw some reports today that there might be some interest, some trade interest with the Giants and maybe Jameis Winston making a trip to Cincinnati. Just kind of, what do you see? How do you see the Bengals playing this out? Do they ride it out with Jake Browning, or can you see them looking outside, maybe trying to bring someone in and maybe salvage the season?
I mean, Jameis Winston certainly had some success in his stint at the other AFC North Ohio team, and so I could definitely see it happening. I mean, without Joe Burrow, first of all, their defense is not top-notch like the rest of the AFC North teams are known for, so they have to rely on this offense, and so it's not exactly like a Lamar Jackson, Cooper Rush type drop, but it's a pretty big drop. And if they want to compete at all, then go for Jameis Winston. But I guess they have to decide what they want out of this season. If it's one that they're going to try to salvage, or if without having Joe back, it's not even worth it at this point. Because I feel like if it was the Ravens' shoes and Lamar was out, well, they're going to say they're still going to compete, but everyone knows once Lamar's gone, it's not a Super Bowl team anymore. So I don't even know that Jameis can necessarily – he might get them playoff contention, but I don't know that he would get them to that next step that they're looking for.
Yeah, Grace, the other news in the AFC, the Chiefs 0-2 for the first time in the Mahomes era.
Has the kingdom fallen? Oh, you know what? I'm not like a Chiefs hater, but I also don't really like pay a ton of attention to them, and most of it is surrounded by Taylor Swift stuff. But the funniest thing that I saw was the Taylor Swift 22 song put to, oh, we're feeling 0-2. I was like, the internet did its thing today.
Okay, well, listen, until you beat the Chiefs, you can't really, I don't know.
I know, but they looked a lot different. I mean, like Travis Kelce doesn't drop many of those passes.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see in week 4. And last one here, guys. Listen, Jared Goff, 5 touchdowns yesterday. I mean, the Ravens obviously getting ready to face the Lions on Monday Night Football. So, Tim, I'll just send this one to you. Just what did you see from that Lions bounce back win? Was that personal? You know, going against Ben Johnson, it looked like they were just kind of unloading a little bit.
Oh, they were definitely rubbing it in Ben Johnson's face with the Bears. They went for it on a 4th down situation, up 45-21 or whatever. They showed that they're still the Lions. It was a rough week 1, but they're back.
And we're talking about the Lions team. The last time they came to Baltimore, 2023, 38-6. They got blown out. So we'll see what these lines will look like on Monday night. We're going to talk more about that game. Right now, we're going to take a quick break, though. More Purple Connection after this.
The Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. And now, Game Day Advice, brought to you by Rice Law. For the best advice, call Rice.
And welcome back to Purple Connection as we get ready to wrap up the show. Some game day advice. This one's pretty simple. Continue your success against the NFC. Lamar Jackson, famously very successful as a starter against the NFC. You see that record there, 24-2.
It's crazy, the fact that, and he did lose a game to the Eagles last year, but only 2 losses in year 8 for Lamar Jackson. And you said, Alex, the last time the Lions came to M&T Bank Stadium, they got the doors blown off them. But this is going to be a huge test for this Ravens defense. It was ugly for them week 1. They had that get-right game against the Browns. They were able to get after Joe Flacco, force some turnovers, but now it's a step up in competition with the Lions. They have a ton of weapons that can hurt opposing defenses. So how does Zach Orr's group look?
Well, and they do say, like, the past couple of years, this isn't the same Lions team. And I was talking to a coach, an NFL coach recently, and he was just like, it was last year, you saw the league start to figure out Lamar a little bit. It's always going to be hard to contain him just because of how talented and mobile he is, but you are starting to figure it out, which brings me back to my point at the top of the show, where it's just like they didn't need Lamar to run for a crazy amount, and we didn't really see him do that, and that offense was still able to put up those kind of numbers. So I think that's what's going to make this fun and challenging on Monday night.
Yeah, guys, as we get ready for Monday Night Football, of course, everyone get ready for prime time, a prime time game at the bank, nothing quite like it. So, of course, our question of the week for the fans, what is your favorite part of a primetime game at M&T Bank Stadium? And you can follow us on Twitter at WJZ or WJZ's Facebook page as well, and get the answer to your question. The best answers that we showed this week on Purple Pregame. So, Gianna, you've been to all kinds of games over your career. You've been to a night game at the bank. What's your favorite part?
I love just like if it's at night, the atmosphere. I think that the Ravens, just the vibe that they bring, they really have been leaning into the Edgar Allan Poe lately. And so it's very dark. And so it satisfies that. It gets loud. And if they wear all black, it's just so intimidating. And I feel like it's the atmosphere of that's what Ravens football is. That's what this Ravens defense wants to be, right? They want to be scared. They want others to be scared. They want to place fear in other people's hearts, and that's really what comes in. I feel like all the guys are extra hyped up. The only thing I don't like about it is getting out of the stadium around like 2 a.m. But
come on.
It's definitely worth it just to experience those vibes. And don't know yet what colors they'll be wearing. I don't know if they released that.
It's the all-black game. It's the blackout game, and that's
Right,
going to be what I say to him. No. I
Yeah.
have a bone to pick. I don't like that being the blackout game. That could have been the color rush. Tim, the blackout game should have been Thanksgiving with the Bengals coming here, especially after all that Joe Burrow was talking this offseason.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and that's the game they're doing the purple rising with the purple helmet or whatever. But no, it's always just a crazy atmosphere for night games at M&T Bank Stadium. They do such a great production with all the lights and the wristbands and everything.
Absolutely. All right, well, that'll do it for this week's Purple Connection. For Grace Grill, Tim Barbalace, and Giana Han, I'm Alex Glaze. We do the show every Monday. We will be back here next Tuesday, actually, because we got Monday Night Football, so a little programming change next week. We'll see you then. Have a good night.